The state of Nebraska, child support modification is a very common thing that happens. In order to modify child support, you need to be able to prove that there is a variance in the amount of child support that you should have to pay based on your income or the party's income. That would be a 10% variance that has occurred for the last 3 months and is reasonably foreseeable that it would occur for the following 6 months thereafter. It's an issue, it's not just the 10% of your income, it would be a 10% variance in the amount of child support obligation that you would pay or receive according to the Nebraska Child Support Guidelines. There's a couple different ways for child support to be modified. First of all, the very economical way I would say would be to go through Nebraska State Child Support Enforcement and see if they will assist you in revising or modifying the child support obligation. I believe Nebraska Child Support Enforcement will do a review every 3 years and basically look at the parties' overall incomes and determine what child support should be based on the current information. The other option is to hire an attorney like our office at Husker Law to take it to the court and to file modification proceedings. And during that proceeding, we need to prove, as part of our case, that there's been a material change in circumstances that would necessitate that the child support be modified. Wherein that case, we have to prove that there is a 10% variance in the amount of child support awarded if the new incomes are run through the Nebraska child support calculation. And along with the change in potential child support, it also has a change in the amount of reimbursements that one party may receive, whether that's for uninsured medical expenses, or as our statute calls them, non-reimbursed medical expenses, or reasonable and necessary direct expenditures that are incurred on behalf of the minor children, or other aspects of the case where the parties may have a percentage split that's affected by the changing in income. Losing your job is often one of the catalysts for parties attempting to modify child support. You're in a difficult position because you just lost your job, but also the guidelines require us that you need to prove that this is something that's occurred for the last 3 months and is reasonably foreseeable to occur for the next 6. Attempting to get there can be difficult. However, if you do lose your job and it was to no fault of your own and you can't find additional employment within those 3 months, then seeking a child support modification is a wise thing to do. The courts are not looking to punish anybody for reasons beyond their own control. And the courts are always looking to keep things equitable and fair, which is where the guidelines exist for us to help and to provide clients with information on when and where to file for those modifications. Hypothetically, a child support calculation can be reviewed at any time. However, for the state to do it on their own review, and for Nebraska Child Support Enforcement to do their own review, it's once every 3 years. There needs to be no other private attorneys or private actions taking place within those 3 years. The other option is to hire a private law firm like Husker Law to look into those factors. And if we can prove that there's been at least a 10% variance, the amount of time that's passed, it doesn't necessarily play that large of a role in it. So if you are on a scenario where your income is going up steeply each year, then it may be necessary for us to modify child support every year. But for a lot of people, that sort of gradual income is not something that needs to be reviewed quite that often. And it's really a case-by-case analysis on what your income is, and occasionally sort of what the other party's income is. Common misconception is that remarriage by one of the parties or the ex-spouses will affect child support. However, a lot of times that bears little to no weight on the actual outcome of the case. So the new spouse, whether it's your ex-spouse that remarries or whether you remarry, your new spouse, their income doesn't go into the calculation when determining child support. So whether or not the party that marries somebody that's very wealthy or somebody that's from limited means, it's really not going to affect the amount of child support that you have to pay right away. There are other factors that may weigh in to that scenario, but from a general basis, remarriage doesn't necessarily affect child support or the child support obligations simply because of the new partner or new spouse.